Oh, so someone told me there was no sound. So my whole my whole intro was soundless. So sorry
I
about that to everybody.
Yeah, I was reading your lips though. It was okay.
We'll put the subtitles when it starts. But hey, this is live, so it's authentic, and what happened happens. We just the show must go on. But
I thought it was just me, but okay, go
thanks
for it.
thanks for the heads up. Who said that? Myra. Thank you, Myra, for the call out. Truly appreciate it. Maybe that's why we dropped a couple people. But Willie, thanks for your time. I appreciate you and your pocket pit bull joining us today.
Yeah, he's here. He's ready to go in case
He's
anybody
ready.
gets out of line.
If anybody gets out of line. But Willie, thanks so much for being here. I know you asked me like, what am I going to tell you that you don't know already? But in reality, it's what other people don't know about you. And I highly respect you as you know. When it comes down to doing the Flowers and Scents and New Bloom show, the Bloom show live, and thank you for allowing me that opportunity to bring you in and us do it together. You've really created a pathway for what blogs and information sharing and news for the flower industry is, right? So I really wanted to share that because I think that's something that people might not know the other side of the story or realize how much work and how much headaches it really caused you. So I really wanted to talk about that on the show. So thank you again, Willie, for being here.
My pleasure. Well, you want to hear about flowers and scents, perhaps? I mean, that's sort of what.
I want to know about you first, right?
Well,
So tell me about Willie. What
I'm
happened ever before Flowers and Sons? What were you
well.
doing before?
It's a long story, but I'll give you the Reader's Digest version, if you will. I've and this is sort of on my mind. All these questions you're probably going to ask me because, as I told you, I'm writing a book
I wanted to talk about.
a book about my experience in the flower business. And as a result, a lot of these chapters are in my head. So the initial chapter is that I was born into the flower business by virtue of being in the trucking business. And since my dad and mom started a trucking business in 1945, that is, and they, had a bunch of kids. I have three brothers and a sister, and everybody works in the business except me, anyway. But we'll get to that later. The yeah, you were sort of born into the business, so we had trucks, and the major thing that we hauled was flowers from South Jersey to New York to Philadelphia, and that was sort of the beginning of it all. And one of the brothers of my half brothers or my half uncles to me, he realized you can't grow flowers in Vineland, New Jersey in the wintertime. So he bought land in Delray Beach, Florida, and moved to Florida and started growing so you could grow all year long. And that sort of drew my father down here to haul those flowers back north. So as I like to say, in my business or in our family business, everybody worked. So if you could lift a box of Gypsophilia, you were in the workforce. And if you could lift a box of gladiolas, you were a man. So that was sort of the differentiation because Gyp is light and glads are really heavy. So so that led into this the whole world of getting me. I graduated from college, and I got
What
married.
what degree did you graduate with? What was your?
And probably in goofing off, but I think.
That's not a degree. That's an extracurricular activity, but not a degree.
Yeah, well, I did get a degree from the what is now called Rowan University in New Jersey,
Okay.
in business management, which
All right.
it made sense. I actually went to the University of Tampa for many years prior to that, and I didn't fail out, but I didn't do too good. So it took me a while to get out of college. When I did go back to Rowan, I have to admit that I applied a rule that I had given to my daughters. Well, I hadn't yet given it to them, but once I figured it out myself, and that being, if you're sort of a C student, maybe you get a couple B's here or there, that's cool. But if you really want to learn something, I learned that you have to sit in the front row of every class. So that's my wisdom for anybody who's in
Me too.
college or about to go to college or or even grade school, and sit in the front row of every class. And there's a whole bunch of good reasons for that. For one reason, you can't sleep, right? You can't goof off. The teacher can see you. So you tend to pay attention. And by osmosis, if you're paying attention, some of what the teacher's telling you or writing on the board is going to sink in, right? So, and that's eventually sunk in. And when I went to, after I didn't do so good getting out of Tampa, I went to this Rowan College, and it was relevant because this is back in 1975 or something like that, 76, and we had just bought our first computer at Armellini at the trucking company, right? So this was literally a flip cards. They had flip cards that had holes in them, and the computer would read it like reading a piano, a player piano. And so you had to stack all these things in there. Anyway, the reality was I was taking computer classes at school, and we had this first new computer, and I knew more about computers than the teacher, and for that matter, because nobody had seen that. It was a relatively new Burroughs machine at the time. At any rate, so yes, I went to college, and then after college, I went home, and boom, my father says, "Hey, you're moving to Florida." Because at that time, the imports had started. This is in 78 now. The imports had started and were getting heavier and heavier. Miami was just booming. And they needed family down there. So one of my other brothers was already there, Richard, and that. So I moved down to Miami and started running the flower business down there, essentially. So that's when I was really in the flower business, because I was dealing with all these importers that were either in business or beginning in business way back then.
Yeah.
There was only a handful when I first moved to Miami of real importers. The importers at that point were essentially wholesalers that sort of had figured it out and started importing direct. And I won't reveal too many secrets from my book yet. So I got a couple up my sleeve yet, but nonetheless,
Cool.
It started and flowers started coming in like crazy. And so I ran the business there for a while, for many years, actually, and then moved up to the Palm City office, which is where Armellini's based, and did that for several years. And then I sort of exploded and went on my own way. So
how did you start the blog? How did that
Well, the
happen?
blog
And why, right? And why? Because it wasn't easy back then as just WordPress and create a little blog. It was a lot more work than that.
The story is this. Okay, so I ended up living in Palm City, and then you do all the things, all the stressful things that you're not supposed to do, in a lifetime, or certainly not all at once. I got divorced, I moved, and I closed the business. So at one point, I had a packaging business. I was partners with Temkin, and we had I was making plastic bags for supermarkets, for bouquets.
Wow. Okay.
That didn't work out too well anyway. So I got hired to come here to Orlando 20 some years ago to work with a company called World Commerce Online and Floriplex, which was really the first, online concept anyway of trying to bridge growers and wholesalers and importers and, basically put flowers online. But that didn't work because we were way too early in the process. We spent most of our time explaining what the internet was to people. So that didn't end up working. But in the interim, while I was working here, what happened was USA Floral Products happened. Okay, back in 2000, more or less, USA Floral Products came along and tried to buy up the industry. So it was a fund, hedge fund or whatever they call them these days. And this guy came in and tried to roll up the business. So he bought a bunch of wholesalers and he bought a bunch of importers, right? A lot of them. And and what happened then is they were trying to go public. And while trying to go public, or, in the process of going public, and when they finally did, Yahoo, I guess the investors put up a chat room on Yahoo. And that was for the investors, to hype the stock, basically. To tell the world that this is the greatest thing ever. This is going to be $1 billion company. Buy this stock. And it worked for a while. However, because it was an anonymous chat room, all the importers and wholesalers who were at one day were competitors and the next day were partners were all like, what is going on? These people don't know what they're doing, you know? So they started posting on this chat room, and they were basically trashing the thing. Like, these, don't buy this stock. You know, it's bad. You know, they don't know what they're doing. This thing's going to blow up, and it did. Now, so in the process, there was maybe I don't know, 100 people posting on this website that were from the business, not just investors. But nobody knew who anybody was, perhaps except for me. I had revealed myself enough since I started it, and anyways, they as soon as the stock hit 25 and then basically went bust, and they got delisted in 2001, I think.
Okay.
And in that, as soon as they delisted them, the Yahoo chat room got very difficult to access. They started putting up roadblocks for whatever reason. And I thought, oh, this is my moment, because, okay, I was working here for World Commerce Online. I knew enough about the internet to know that you can have a blog or a website, right? So I said, you know what? Everybody's going to leave this chat room, and it's never going to come back together because nobody knows who anybody is. So I said, okay. So I got a guy. I said, let's put up a website, just a blog, a simple blog site. And I told everybody to come here, and they did, for the most part. And then it got a little challenging, because then it became just a gossip site. And
tell us how you changed that and why you changed that too, because I know that's, you know, reputations are hard to die, right? And I know that it has had in the last X amount of years. But how did it change, and what have been the changes, and how have you seen the results?
Well, what ended up happening was that, again, it just became a bit of a gossip site, and feelings got hurt, and people, and you know, and that wasn't really my intention. The whole thing, it was just an idea anyway. I really didn't have any particular design or goal when I started the thing, other than to, you know, keep this dialogue going. But within that dialogue, I realized there was news, right?
Yep.
There was real news inside the dialogue, banter, if you will, and sarcasm and whatever. There was a lot going on. But within all that, I saw the reason. I said, there's news here. So what happened next is a bit of serendipity, if you will, because one day I went to log into the website and I couldn't get to my ads. Mm-hmm. And I should preface it by saying Flowers and Scents, I didn't even have ads to begin with. It was just a site. I ran it. It cost me a little bit of money to keep it and play with it. But one day I got a call from a guy in Canada, actually. And he says, I want to buy an ad on your website. And I said, I don't sell any. He says, listen, I'm going to send you $50 a month and my logo. Put it on your website. And I said, okay. And then as soon as somebody saw that, somebody else called me. Hey, I saw that on your website. And I call, you know, so within a relatively short amount of time, I had, you know, 10 or 15 sponsors that were willing to pay me to be on the website. And then the next thing that happened, again, like to say, I logged in one day and couldn't get to the website, couldn't get to the ads. And it's because the freeware I was using, the software I was using, which was no longer being supported. And I said, oh boy, I'm stuck. So I went to actually my old friend here, who I was working with World Commerce Online. I came back in here and I said, hey, I need a website. I'm in trouble here. So he built me quickly. They built the website for me. And they kept saying, what do you want, a forum or a blog? And I said, I want a flog. I want both, because they're slightly different. Yeah. And anyway, so that's what allowed me. I said, all right, now's my chance to turn this into a bit more of a magazine, a bit more of a, you know, serious news site, because I have the ability. Okay, we're building a new site. Let's feature things that I, you know, wouldn't have the ability to do prior to that. And what happened after that, essentially, is that the banter sort of went away. I suspect a little bit it was not so simple to post on the site as it was, and you had to sign up, and I even though allowed it to be anonymous for the most part. And then we got to remember too the time period. Facebook was just starting when I was doing it, right? All social media was just taking off, so there was a lot of distraction and a lot easier places to have chats than on my site, and that was fine with me.
And Willie, real quick, who were your competitors back then? Were there any competitors, or you were the only show in town?
No, not really. My competitors were newsprint.
Gotcha.
You know, there used to be a bi-monthly, I guess, a paper called Flower News run by the Benjamins in Chicago. And then there was Floral Nursery and Times. They were the two big newspapers that came out. And, you know, both of them basically about that time were dying because newsprint was expensive and hard to do. And the business was changing perhaps. And I just happened to have an online tool that allowed people, and because look, people had advertising expenses or budgets. So I need to spend this ad somewhere, and there was no place to put it. So I was happy to take their money and put ads on my site. And that's sort of how it has, grown over the years. What happened next, I guess, the next big event was COVID, really. And well, maybe even prior to COVID, what happened was, I guess my coverage was good enough. People were inviting me to do shows around the world. So I was in Ecuador, I was in Kenya, I was in New York, I was in Amsterdam, and that was wonderful. That gave me good content. I'd like to think that I brought a lot of people to shows that they couldn't get to. They're, and did my best to bring them the sights and the scenes and the scents and the smell, if you will. So then COVID hits and boom, ouch. No shows, no nothing, no travel. And, that was where I got my inspiration and content. So what happened was that the people from the Flower Circus in Holland called me up and said, "Hey, we want to do you. We'd like to interview you." And I said, "Okay." So he interviewed me, John. And at the end of it, I said, "I can do that. I can do that."
I remember I interviewed you too, and you were like, "Hey, I'm thinking about this."
You interviewed me, and I was like, "Okay, I can do this. I can figure this Zoom thing out." And I have enough connections in the business, and people know me and will probably take my phone call. And that has given me the opportunity to interview some wonderful people. And I'm trying to do more. Frankly, it's harder and harder to get people to sit still long enough. Busy people that we're in, we have a lot of busy people.
So let me try to help you with that. Let me ask you a question. I know you've told me of some success stories with some companies that I've been on, because it is almost, I always insist people to come on and speak freely, because it's almost marketing material in a sense, because you get to have your message out without doing it yourself. It's an interview concept, so it's very casual. So it's not you really talking about yourself, it's us being intrigued. So do you have any success stories on how someone came to your show and either found new employees or found new business from coming onto your show?
Well, yeah. When I can tell you the best one, when I interviewed Bill Duran, Bill Lefevre Duran, he was talking about his company, and after he got done talking about his company, and we had our casual conversation like we're having, he said, I within a few days after that interview, he got people calling him from other companies saying, "I want to work for your company." And he told me that, and the next time I saw him, he said, "It's unbelievable." He said, "I've had people calling me wanting to work for this company based on that conversation." So that was very special to me. And I think, while I don't have a lot of stories about individuals, I have gotten so much positive feedback going to conventions, people telling me they just like what I write. They like to get my emails, which is something is very special, that somebody wants your email, and that they've enjoyed my take on things, and very importantly, they tell me they can trust me. Right. So they say, okay, when my vendor tells me I better order early because things are the world is crashing, and if you want your flowers, you better order early. They don't believe them as much but if I say in my writings or whatever that, hey, there's issues with the distribution system or whatever, or the things that we are dealing with still, they say, when I hear from you, I believe it. And I can't, that's a lot of trust that I can't, I'm honored that I have that trust. So,
and why do you think what we do, what you do, what you started, Willie, do you hear me? Why do you think blogs and news and the things that we do are important to the industry? Why do you continue doing it?
Well, I continue doing it because I sort of like to do it. Again, I've been in the business my whole life. I consider, I have more friends in the flower business than I have anywhere else, probably. So I enjoy doing it, and while I can, and again, I think people value the unbiased news that they can get, and there is news out there. Let's face it. I wrote over Valentine's Day that perhaps we shot ourselves in the foot by being a bit negative about or too proactive about saying, "Oh, this is bad," and the flowers are going to be expensive because. So I sort of have to watch my own guidance. Most of the people reading perhaps this or watching this or reading my blogs and stuff are people in the industry. So I'm not speaking to the consumers per se, but there's a message out there, and we have to communicate the message. And frankly, there's nobody else doing it. Everybody takes it upon themselves. Every grower, importer, or wholesaler, has his grapevine to the chain, and to what's going on. And perhaps I'm part of that. But for the most part, there's good news out there, and things are happening. And I'm so delighted that people are coming into the business, young. I'm really tickled that when you go to the shows, you see, oh, meet my son or meet my daughter.
Yes.
They're in the business and they're working with me. And that is way cool, because it's the thing that I have heard for the last, I don't know, 20 years, perhaps, is people saying, look at the age of the people in the business. Everybody's getting older. And we need young blood here, because and that's a challenge. That's a challenge. I interviewed Rio Rose yesterday, and Victor, and Victor told me, look, he said, one thing that's weird that has changed in South America, for instance, and I'm skipping around perhaps, but I think it's relevant. He said, we had generations of people working at our farms. Maybe the grandmother worked here, the mother worked here, and the kid decides to work here. And he says, now we've seen that trend stop, because there are better jobs to be made, had in Bogota or Quito or Medellin or whatever. There's there's other jobs, and let's face it, agriculture and the business that we're in is labor intensive. And same thing with wholesalers. Wholesalers have a hard time getting their kids to come into business because, Dad, you want me to get up at 4 a.m. and go to the market, and then and then I get up at 2. Great, what do I do then? So I don't, but my point is, I'm happy to see, really happy to see people in the business.
And it's funny you say that, because during Woodstock, I realized that. I'm like, man, there's many more youth here, and head of companies and things, even assistant managers. So I was very impressed with that. I need to give a shout out to Next Gen, what SAF is doing with doing the Next Gen thing. I think that is intentional, and it's super important that we all support that, right? Because like you said, you're happy to see it, but for it to continue to happen, and for it to really be a thing and to excite the new generation, we need to show them what it is and connect them to more new generations. I'm 1 year. I only have 1 year for new generation. So once I turn 45, I'm no longer new gen, but I consider myself a new gen right now.
Yeah, I think they used to call it
Next Gen. It's called. Sorry.
Yeah, now they call it Next Gen. I think they used to call it the I don't know, the Young and Restless. I don't know. So one of those
So
things.
something else. Gotcha. So let me
Well,
take
they
some
call it
topics.
the young execs. Yeah.
Young exec. So David Kaplan is saying that you have a PhD in harmonica. Mr. J, the man Schwenke, is saying, two of my favorite gents. Good to see you guys. He's a big fan of yours.
People checking in. Good. I like.
And then we have Mr. Harrison I. Trust. That's exactly right. Willie, you've earned it. We're actually working on some exciting things with Florida Expo. So can't really share yet, but we are working on some cool things for Florida Expo that's happening in June. I'm pretty sure you're invited to go, right? You got an area?
Yes. I haven't committed yet, to tell you the truth, but I saw it on my schedule here. So yeah.
Harrison, reach out to Willie. He's a busy man. Commit him. So, Willie, I think that's really it, man. But I do have a question for you. Is where do you see? I have one question after this question, but where do you see the Flowers and Scents in the next 5 years?
You want the answer? I see you having it.
Wow, that's a big news. We just broke news because I just knew that myself right now. That's amazing, Willie. And I will take the reins any which way I can, and that's an honor, man. That is an honor. I wasn't expecting that answer. I'm almost blushing. That's crazy. Cool. Wow. Shoot. I don't cuss much on the show.
And the last question, you had one.
And the last question is, what in one word? What do you think? What in one word? How will you define 2021 in the flower industry? 2021 in one word. How can you define the flower industry?
Revolutionary.
2022.
An awakening. Maybe that's 2 words. I don't know.
No, awakening is one, right? But that's great. That is actually on point. An awakening. Because I really think that we should stay awake in reality as well, to realize what took us to get here through COVID and through changes. Is super important to continue to do what we're doing and continue to do it right. That's awesome. Awesome, Willie. Any other announcements other than your book? When is your book dropping?
Well, the first thing I had, since you asked about the book, the first thing I had to determine, I said to myself, okay, you're going to write a book. So I said, what exactly is a book? So I looked it up online, and a book, to be a book, has to have a cover and a binding. So it doesn't have to have 1 page or 1,000 pages. It just has to have a binding, apparently. So I'm because I'm writing and saying, okay, do I have enough to write a book? I don't know, but I've been writing, and I don't know. I've got 30 or 40 pages of stuff written. Some of it you've heard a little bit of it today because it's just on, it's on the tip of my tongue, if you will. And people have encouraged me to do it. And after I came back from Wolfson, to tell you the truth, I sat back and I said, I happened to have a conversation with Rex from Continental Flowers. I mean, from the farm.
Rex Thompson, one of my old bosses there.
Yes. And we were standing there and we were trying to remember somebody's name. And he couldn't remember and I couldn't remember. And this is a name that we both knew well and should have known. And I walked away and I said, boy, we're forgetting stuff. We're forgetting too much stuff. Now, okay, part of it's getting old and whatever, and part of it we just don't remember, but we did figure it out. But I said it sort of reinforced the point. Look, people are dying. They're retiring. They're going away. The business, it's a fleet. We all move on at some point. And I said I got to capture this moment. And I have this life of experiences. So I figured, what the heck? I write them down, and maybe somebody will want to read them. I don't know.
I'll certainly read it. I know David Kaplan will read it as well. So we'll be really excited to read it. I'm a nostalgia flower industry nostalgia geek. So I would love to read the stories, man.
Well, I'm doing my research to hopefully there's some surprises in there. So
that's awesome. Let me get one more thing. Cindy Raffus. She says opportunity is her word for 2022. And David Kaplan says that sounds awesome. I imagine, about the Flowers and Scents and also about the book as well. Anybody else? Oh, wait, we got it. It will be a flower bestseller. A flower bestseller. Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
you can sell it for me, David.
We certainly can. Yeah, David
You
can.
guys are in marketing. I'll probably need help.
We'll get the word out for sure, and we'll do a campaign for you, a tour, a Williee Armellini tour.
Hey, I'm going to give you one more heads up, okay? One more thing that nobody knows about yet, perhaps.
All right, write this one down. All right.
So, Fun and Sun coming up that you are going to be there, and I'll be there.
I was going to ask you about what you're about to say. Yes. Okay.
And some people have contacted me, and they said, "Can't we put an industry band together?" And I said, "Well, that's not so simple, but let's try." So at Fun and Sun, it's possible. We haven't confirmed this yet, but anyway, they've asked me to work with a band and invite people from the industry to sit in with that band and show their stuff. So
yeah, a jam session, right?
A jam session of sorts. I'm not quite sure how we're going to pull it off, but I'm putting out my first call to musicians. If you plan on being in San Diego for Fun and Sun, if you're a musician and you want to bring your guitar or your drumsticks or your saxophone or whatever, you can come and do it. And we're trying to put it together. So if that makes any sense, and I'll be putting it out in my blog as soon as they tell me yes, absolutely, we got the band squared away. So that's what we're working on.
So I think that which is awesome. They're working on it. You and I are doing something really cool there too. We're doing the Flowers and Scents and Bloom show live there 3 times with a couch and a different location. And we'll be live, and it'll be kind of like for the party. It's cool production stuff that we're doing. And then I'm going to give a shout out to Ben Powell from Mayish, because I spoke to him the other day, and he's like, "Man, I'm rusty," but he's planning to be there. So I think you have your lead guitar guy. I hope he doesn't get mad at me for throwing him into the wolves, but
no,
I asked him about it.
He was my first selection because he played in my band before, so he and I know each other musically pretty well. So. And
also, we're about to do another little video on the Bloom Together after party. And thank you once again for collaborating on that and for stepping on the stage and jamming out with the gentleman that you actually knew, but we didn't know that you knew, but you knew him through the circuit and the band circuit. You used to kind of cross paths. So we have a little video of you just jamming out and your brother dancing. And I thank you for adding to that environment. Harmonica is my favorite instrument, hands down. I've told you, and wood carving is one of my favorite hobbies, like your hobby as well. But thank you for joining us during that Bloom Together after party. That was cool, and I can't wait to see you jam out, man.
My pleasure.
I knew he was going to do that.
Okay, see you later.
There you go. So Linda Burgo says, breaking news, Williee Armellini, future Grammy Award winner. So thank you, Linda, for tuning in, and thank you for making a comment. Williee, again, man, thank you so much. Thank you so much for all your support and being a trendsetter, a pioneer, and everything we do, man. I truly appreciate you. Thank you.
All right, man. Enjoy. See you later.
Take care, man. Bye-bye. Thank you, sir. Bye-bye. So, Ms. Linda, thank you for chiming in. Mr. Jay Schwanke, I was on mute in the beginning of the introduction, but I'm super excited to have Jay. I believe he's going to be on April 21st. We're going to be talking about life in bloom, how to get more involved. And I don't want to say the word take advantage, but leverage life in bloom to spread words, to sell more flowers. I think, there's a couple of organizations that are joining him, and there's just so much that he could do through public television that would add value to any company and the flower industry. It's a pretty cool show on public television. So please tune in on the 21st to learn. If you're a distributor, grower, even a wholesaler, or just a startup and have a product, tune in and learn how you can get more involved with Life in Bloom. And then on May 9th, we're having a logistics roundtable. Very excited about that. We're having David Armellini, Christine Bolt, and a couple other people, and an expert, Megan Conyers, will be facilitating the conversation. She was actually one of my professors in design thinking, but she is an advocate for logistics and has been involved in that. So she's joining us for that. And again, that's May 19th. And to stay connected, subscribe, like, comment, press the little alert button. It not only encourages us to continue to do what we're doing, but keeps you connected so you don't miss another great episode. And if you ever want to be on the Bloom Show, reach out. We are here to help. And gosh, I made a mistake and didn't add a bunch of little banners and stuff. Let me put Flowers and Scents website so you know what the website is, which is www.flowersandscents.com. So again, flowersandscents.com. Go check them out. Subscribe to it. You'll get great news. They don't send too much information out. It's just the right amount. And then if you ever need anything from us, we are here to help the floral industry innovate, connect, and bloom, and collaborate. Reach out to us at help@newbloomsolutions.com, and we are here to help. So please, again, subscribe, like, comment. It's always encouraging, and press the little alert button. It keeps you in tune with what we're doing. Again, thank you for your time. See you next April 21st. See you with Jay Schwanke, the man, the myth, the legend, and see you April 21st. Take care.